So the conclusion is so cool how you really, I mean, strings and threads being brought back together. You end kind of more or less talking about two key concerts from 2017. That would be what, Strange Love and Sweet and Tender Hooligans.
Yeah, yeah.
So you make it really, so those are fronted by, correct me if I'm wrong, Freddie Morales and Jose Maldonado. And you really, again, if we talk about so much about the Kiss Across the Ocean, and I think I would probably speak to this too, that cover bands or tribute bands often are kind of like looked down upon,
Yeah.
right? But you really make the point, like you write, quote, that they're re-engaging and reinterpreting. So I wonder about how those concerts and seeing. So I'm sorry. First of all, tell us. So Strange Love would be a tribute band for
Depeche Mode. Yeah.
Depeche Mode, and then Sweet and Tender Hooligans,
The Smiths.
the Smiths, right? So how did they serve as, I don't know if conduit's the word, or how do they serve as a kiss across the ocean? What added value do they have? And I'm sorry to make it so business-like.
No, not at all. I think, one of the things that I've always marveled about these particular tribute bands is that, they're not only copying the original band, but they're also kind of making the original band theirs in their own distinct way. Um, and I think, what you have are performers who have been inspired by two groups, the Depeche Mode and the Smiths, and who are paying tribute to, these bands that have influenced them, but they're also putting their own spin on their
Hmm.
music, whether it's through, you know, the translation of the song lyrics into Spanish, or actually drawing attention to their ethnicity as
Mm-hmm.
Latino, and doing so in a way that doesn't take away from their creativity, and their uniqueness. And I think, I was surprised myself when I took in their shows, thinking that it was more of kind of like a novelty than anything, and then just being in these venues that were, sold out, and people actually engaging with the music in a way where it wasn't evident that there was an original band that was kind of
Hmm.
overshadowing the performance, but it was the performers on the stage who were actually giving life to the audience, on their own distinct terms, and just find that really fascinating, and it's not surprising that they continue to sell out shows here in Southern California. They're extremely popular.
Yeah. I mean, what a cool way to bring together the idea of the kiss across the ocean. Like you talk about, I picture like the person who's receiving the kiss, the blown kiss has to move a little bit, has to adapt.
Yeah,
And then just the idea of the quote unquote transatlantic touch. And yeah, just like the image of like you said, a sold out show in 2017, refurbishing like music from the 80s is not just about the nostalgia, it's about there's something different and new and a new sense of energy to it, right?
yeah. And if you don't mind, I'd like to say something else. Is,
Please.
in that conclusion, I talk about this DJ collective named Ghost Town from
Hmm.
Anaheim, and that's another example of the repurposing of this music, or translating it for a different, context, at a different historical moment. It's these two younger guys, Latinos from Anaheim, who play ska and reggae and soul music from both the US and the UK, for various fundraisers. And they take their name from the song by the Specials, Ghost Town, which is all
Hmm.
about the economic disenfranchisement of Britain at the time for young youths, or for youth, British youth. And by taking on that name Ghost Town, they're kind of translating that
Hmm.
historical context for what's happening to, Latino youth, in Southern California and at the border, for example, the criminalization of Latinos. And
Hmm.
I just think it's really fascinating that they're, picking up on this music of a previous generation and
Yeah.
repurposing it, for today. And so it really does kind of refuse the narrative of nostalgia to show that
Hmm.
this music continues to live on and inspire younger generations of listeners.
Yeah. Art begets art, right?
Yes, exactly.
Creativity begets creativity.
Yes.
You talked about some of the poetry that you're writing. I wonder, just if you have anything you want to add about any future projects you have coming up.
Yeah, so I'm doing a few things. I'm editing a collection of plays by the playwright Ricardo Bracho, who's from LA. I'm finishing up this book of poems called Exemplars and Accomplices about my time living in Chicago, about hanging out at nightlight spots from until 4 in the morning.
Mhm.
um, and Yeah, I'm also kind of imagining a collection of my essays that have been published in different venues, trying to pull them together. And I'd also love to continue to work on music, and so I have a few ideas about what I'd like to do next. One of which is to write a whole book on soft cells, nonstop erotic cabaret.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just had a eureka moment where my brothers are really into this tribute band, cover band. You probably know. I mean, I think they went throughout California. Maybe they're still going, but Tainted Love,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? I mean, I'm not. I mean, I saw them 3 or 4 times, and they were always, sold out. But it took me. I mean, obviously, I knew the song "Tainted Love," but in reading your book, it's like, oh man, okay, there's so much more to it than just the song, and it's just such a just such an atmosphere around that really
Yeah.
changes things. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Heck of a book, like I said. And tell us about like where to get it, any particular bookstores that you really want to shout out.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you can order it through Duke University Press, but I've been really excited to see it on sale at some of my favorite bookstores, Libro Mobile in Santa Ana,
Okay.
which is an independent bookstore that's run by Sarah Rafael Garcia, who's done an amazing job
Mhm.
of promoting local authors from Santa Ana
Mhm.
and also writers of color. City Lights bookstore in San
All
Francisco,
right.
one of my favorites, which we talked about
Legendary.
earlier,
Yeah.
Erlinghetti and those guys. Um, and then also, just I would say, if none of those bookstores are accessible to you, independent bookstores are the way to go. I think we
Mm,
have to continue to support them.
definitely. The T matters in your name as far as finding you online. Help us. So you're on Instagram and Twitter.
Yes, on both, yeah.
Okay. Are you what's the word? Are you actively online? Are you very online? Easy to reach?
Uh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes I get bombarded with emails, and so it takes a while for me to respond. But if it's on Twitter or Instagram, I'm usually a little bit faster about responding.
So stay tuned for future projects for those, follow him online, through social media, get the book. And again, thanks so much. It's an academic book in all the good ways, and it's also a creative work in so many good ways. It's a personal book, it's a memoir, and just so interesting. And I hope people will go and buy it. And thank you for talking to me, and continue great luck with with all of your writing.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me, and I love what you do, and it's a great honor to be uh, part of it.
Right back at you. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
What a pleasure it's been to speak today to Richard T. Rodriguez. Continue good luck to him with his writing. We're so looking forward to continuing to follow his career and his important work. You can now subscribe to the Chills at Will podcast on Apple Podcasts. Please leave a 5-star review. You can ask for it by name using Alexa and find it on Stitcher, Spotify, and on Amazon Music, though we don't want to give Bezos any more money. Follow me on Instagram where I'm at Chills at Will Podcast, or on Twitter where I'm at Chills at Will PO1. You can watch this and other episodes on YouTube, the Chills at Will podcast channel. Sign up now for the Chills at Will podcast Patreon. It can be found at patreon.com/Chills at Will podcast Peter Real. Last name is spelled Riehl. Check out the page that describes the benefits of a Patreon membership, including cool swag, merch, and bonus episodes. Thanks in advance for supporting my one-man show, my DIY podcast, and my extensive reading, research, editing, and promoting to keep this independent podcast pumping out high-quality content. The intro song for the Chills of Will podcast is Wind Down, and the other song played on the episode is Hoops Instrumental by Matt Whitehour. Both songs are used through archesaudio.com. Please tune in for episode 171 with Danielle Prescott. Danielle is an author, content creator, and journalist. She's a 15-year veteran of the beauty and fashion industry and a graduate of NYU's Gallatin School of Individualized Study. A lifelong fashion obsessive, she was most recently the style director of BET.com. Her book, Token Black Girl, is part memoir, part narrative nonfiction, and an exploration of the ways that modern media can influence one's self-esteem. That episode will air on March 21st. For now, thanks again for listening. I hope that these uncertain days bring you texts by writers with mad skills like Richard T. Rodríguez, whose work, like A Kiss Across the Ocean, gives you chills at will.